Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Eric Johansson, a teacher with LSAT Demon. Joining me is Nathan Fox, the co-founder of LSATdemon.com and the weekly podcast, Thinking LSAT. We have an email from Anonymous.
Anonymous says, "Hi, Demon Team. I studied with y'all last year and took the LSAT 3 times, the latest and greatest being a 177. I'm almost done with my essays based on last year's prompts. I have not heard y'all talk much about the interview process, so I'm curious about the best way to prepare for them. I'm expecting to get asked why law and why now, some things off my resume, and why I'm interested in X school. If I already covered these topics in my application, should I just prepare by repeating these answers verbally in a coherent manner? What is some general advice for these interviews? Thanks, Anonymous." Interviews are fairly rare. I had no interviews at any of the schools that I applied to way back in the day in 2007. Eric, were you offered any interviews when you applied last cycle?
I had one interview directly over Zoom, and then I had a couple. I think more common are pre-recorded interviews. Some schools are doing that. And even that, it was only a couple of them. But it's this system where you log on and then they give you the prompt and you have however many minutes to rehearse your answer. And then you press record and you have a set like 60 seconds to answer that question. They're recording you. It's uncomfortable. It's weird. The questions were very much like you said, Anonymous. Why law? Why now? Why this school? And I remember, I think it was Minnesota that got a little kind of cute with its interview questions, asking like, where would you like to go on vacation or something like that? You know, those sorts of personal questions. Really, I think just to make sure that you're a human being and you're not raising any crazy red flags.
Yeah, I would say just be yourself on any of those like personal questions. If favorite ice cream or where you want to go on vacation, I think you just answer honestly. Just be a real human.
Yeah.
As far as the why law, why now, I think that you should have some sort of an idea. I think that you should have like I think the tone that you want to strike is, I'm open to changing my mind once I'm in law school, because I understand that law school really, it's going to show you what different options might be. And that's what they want to hear, that you're flexible. Yeah. But they also probably want to know that you have thought about it and that there is some sort of a plan in place where you kind of know what lawyers do and you've thought about wanting to do that sort of thing. And so it'd be great if you had like, oh, well, I'm interested in family law and I had an internship at a family law firm and I really liked it. And so I think that I might want to go down that path, but I'm also open to, exploring various careers once I'm in school.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to overthink it more than that. I would say that you probably need to know something about the school.
Yeah.
And, if it's a live interview, then I would just try to ask questions. I think the best thing that you can do in an interview, the best way that you can control a conversation is to get them talking instead of you talking. So you ask them questions about their school, some things about their school, and you want to ask questions about anything, something that you're genuinely curious about at that school.
Yeah. I think that's key. The schools will ask why this school, and keep in mind that they have probably seen hundreds of why X essays and done hundreds of these interviews and heard people recite the same stuff wrote off of their website about this or that clinic or this or that opportunity. So they've heard that stuff before. The extent to which you can connect anything that's specific about that school to your background, your goals, just to make it authentic and real is good. And by the way, this can also be related to the city. Like, it doesn't need to be, oh, it's this school. I think it's very realistic to say, well, this school, because really I want to practice in Los Angeles. I have family here. I've always wanted to continue to live in Los Angeles. and this is one of the best schools in Los Angeles or wherever. I mean, that's real. Like, that's just saying, hey, regionally, this is where I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
That'll tell the schools that actually, yes, you are interested in working here.
Mm-hmm.
You have a geographic reason for picking that school.
One consideration there, though, is that, I do think that if they're interviewing you, they probably want you. If they're taking the time, especially to do a live interview with you, they're not doing that with everybody. They're only doing that with people that they legitimately think they want to admit.
Yeah.
So I would be a bit careful about, how many of your cards you're going to lay on the table. If you act like you're my number one choice, it's my dream school to go to your school, I will accept without hesitation. If I would be so honored and blessed to be able to go to your school, then what incentive do they have to make you a good offer? They might offer you admission, but they also might offer you no scholarship at all. I would maybe play some cards a little close to my vest. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I remember an applicant who was admitted to both Berkeley and Harvard. And Berkeley did not give her a good scholarship offer. She had a fiance who was in medical residency at University of California, San Francisco, med school. She wasn't going to Harvard. If they would have interviewed her, I think it would have been extremely foolish for her to start talking about her fiance who was in medical residency at UCSF, because Berkeley ended up giving her a full ride scholarship.
Nice.
And they had initially offered her 0. And she said, well, hey, I have these other competing offers, including admission to Harvard. I wonder if you could reconsider my scholarship offer. And they did end up giving her a full ride. I think she did that by email. It wasn't in an interview, but the same principle would apply in an interview, where I think you really could cost yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars if you would say, oh, well, I'm definitely staying in the Bay Area no matter what. If you admit me, I'm definitely going to your school. Yeah. You better be willing to pay up if you're going to, say something like that, because they want maximum revenue per student going to their school.
Yeah.
And you need to remember that you are in a negotiation with these schools. It's not simply a matter of will they admit you. It's how much is it going to cost me to go to this school? I understand that they're charging everyone a different price, and I don't want to go to your school at the wrong price. Now, I'm not saying that you should say that either in the interview, because, then they might start thinking like, oh, okay, this person is, they're only going to come here if we offer them a full ride. Maybe we just waitlist them. Or, look, this is a good yield protection candidate. Mm-hmm. So I think you want to be a little sensitive. Like, think about, okay, what should this school be willing to offer me, and how desperate am I really to get into this school? If they are your number one choice and you absolutely would pay full price, maybe you can lay those cards on the table. If this is Harvard or Stanford or Yale and it's your dream school and they only do need-based scholarships anyway, then you might go ahead and say, oh, well, clearly this is, I would legitimately be so honored to go to Stanford Law School. So sure, I'll go to, you could tell them.
Or if you got GI Bill.
Right. Yeah. But if there are better options, or if you have multiple competing options, then I think you don't want to seem too desperate. You want to give them FOMO instead of, you displaying your own FOMO, because even though they hate the word negotiation and they will say, we don't negotiate and this is not a negotiation, it is a negotiation because they are charging everybody a different price. So I just think you should be sensitive to that.
Yeah, very good point.
Anything more you want to say about it? I have one more thing that I wanted to say.
No, I just echo that. It's a balancing act of showing your interest, but not being too desperate.
Yeah. Yeah. You're in the driver's seat. So you need that with you or without you energy, where you're going to be confident, you're going to be professional, you're going to be polite, but you're going to, you're going to know that this is not your only possible school, that you've applied broadly, you've applied early, you've applied to multiple schools, you've applied with your best LSAT, You've got your ducks in a row. You're a great candidate. They want you. And you need to go in with that attitude. I'm not talking about like acting like a smug dick, because that could definitely cost you.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with knowing your worth. And I would really recommend that people, put yourself in a negotiating position, again, by applying early, broadly, with the best LSAT you can apply with. Last thing I want to say about interviews: everyone hates hearing their own recorded voice. Everyone hates seeing themselves on video if they're not used to it, hearing themselves on audio if they're not used to it. So these pre-recorded interviews, I just want to reassure everybody that it's you and everyone else who hates this. And everyone else is doing it. Everyone else feels awkward. It just doesn't matter. Just get over yourself. Nobody cares. Only you care. I mean, everybody cares about themselves. No one else cares. It doesn't sound your voice. Everybody, did you, Eric, when I was a kid, I used to have, my parents had like a, cassette tape recorder.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember recording my voice on the cassette tape recorder. And when I would play it back, it would be like, oh my God, I sound terrible on the recording, because it doesn't sound to you the way you're used to hearing your voice.
Yep. I had the same experience. I remember it was like a little toy tape recorder, and just make little recordings for fun. But the resonance inside of your head is not the same. Yeah, agreed. It's
maybe
totally
today's digital natives are just over it, because you grew up with iPhones around you, and you're like used to being on video, and it doesn't bother you potentially. But I have heard from lots of students, contemporaneous students, saying, I hate hearing myself. I hate seeing myself on camera or on a mic. And I just want to reassure everybody that, one, everybody feels that way. And two, it also goes away over time. The more you do it, the more you'll totally get over it. And then you'll realize, oh, that's just how I sound to everybody else. But it doesn't sound weird to anybody else. That's just how I sound. So it's really only you that thinks that you sound weird. Literally nobody else feels that way.
Yeah. Just record 1,000 podcast episodes over the course of 10 years. And you'll be totally over it and prepared for these interviews.
If I wasn't before I started doing this, I am certainly over it now. Yeah. The effect will go away with time, I promise. And so anyway, in the context of doing these interviews, you just don't need to worry about it. It's really nothing. And
again, like Nate said, they're pretty rare. I think I did like one live interview and 2 or 3 of the pre-recorded ones out of the 17 schools that I applied to. So it's not that big a deal. One other thing, one of those pre-recorded interviews, 1 or 2 of them also included a written portion. And I don't know if schools are still doing that. Very rare, but it was like similar to recording your voice for a pre-recorded answer. They gave you some sort of prompt similar to like an LSAT writing thing. And it was just the school giving you another test of how you could write on some sort of random prompt under time pressure, which seemed interesting. And again, I would just remind everybody that no one writes particularly well under those circumstances, and everyone walks away feeling like they didn't do it very well. So
I would say write less. That's my tip there, is just don't write so much. Write shorter sentences, write fewer sentences, and leave some time at the end to go back and reread it and edit it, because it's the editing that makes the good writing. It doesn't, nobody writes like perfect, fully formed sentences and organized thoughts on their first write through. So write a simple answer and then go back and edit it and hit submit, and you should be fine.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Thanks, Anonymous. Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.